Obviously I played quarterback here. I would love to stay here and be the quarterback. But I just wanted to meet the head coach today. I want to see, obviously, what kind of offense and what kind of staff he's going to put together, and we'll just go from there. But my plan is the same. Just kind of take everything in and just take it one day at a time. Heal up my body and do some rehab and take some time off. But just today I got to meet Coach Rhule, the head coach. Got to meet the new strength coach, and I got to meet the defensive back coach, Coach Cooper, and some of the people that they brought in, and they seem like they have a good plan in place, and they seem like really good people so far. So I don't know anything about these guys. I'm just gonna have to take it one day at a time and earn each other's trust. And I know the relationships take time, so I'm excited about the hire, and I'm really happy for this program and for this team.
Welcome back to Big Red Rant. It looks like Casey Thompson is leaning towards staying with the Huskers. Gary, my argument is simple. But before I get into it, hit that like button for us and tell us in the comments, do you want Casey Thompson to stay, or are you ready to turn the page to somebody else? Gary, there's been rumors of Spencer Rattler, which we don't think is going to happen. I certainly do not want it. If Matt Rhule's first decision is to somehow bring Spencer Rattler in here, I'm going to start questioning Matt Rhule real quick. After listening to Casey talk, it seems like he wants to stick around. And I understand if I'm Casey. Like, he's a pretty darn good quarterback that's had no protection. Matt Rhule seems like he does understand the foundations of football. He even referenced it himself, a few times in his press conference. If I'm Casey, I'm thinking, okay, there's a real coach in the room now. No offense to Mickey. We're talking super successful college coach in the room. Maybe I do stick around and see if he can't protect me. And if his system is good enough, all I got to do is look a certain amount of competent at quarterback, which I already am there. I just need protection. I'm sure he wants to go pro. Now, obviously, he's not going to be a high draft pick because he's not, physically imposing. He's a shorter guy, but I think he could make it into the league as a backup. If Chase Daniels can rob banks for as long as he has, essentially, getting paid what he got paid to back up for the Lions and for the Bears for so long, I'll let Casey Thompson be a backup. Why not? Especially if my team has a good offensive line. Do you think it's going to be Casey? Do you want it to be Casey? What do you think?
Just to go back to the Spencer Rattler thing real quick, he transferred this last year. So there's no way he can be the quarterback next year. If for some reason Rhule and Satterfield or whatever want to bring him, he's got to go the normal transfer route and take a year off. So now you're looking at 24. I don't think that's happening. I don't think he's wanting to wait a year. I think some people got burned on that little hoax deal or whatever, and that's the only reason that's a topic. As far as Casey goes, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I don't think he really wanted to leave. I think he really questioned, what can I do next year if this team continues on next year, right? But now I think there's a little bit more hope for him based on what you said. He doesn't have the arm strength, I don't think, to be an NFL quarterback. We wouldn't have been cooked against Wisconsin because of the wind. We couldn't throw the ball at all against Wisconsin because of the wind, at least stretch the field and utilize Palmer against Wisconsin because of how bad the wind was. So, that's an issue. That's definitely going to be an issue at the next level. Yeah, all those things you're saying, I feel like a guy he's a football junkie. You know what I mean? For a guy who doesn't know what he's doing, to be at the facility the Monday after the season's over, there's no bowl game coming up. There's potentially no next year. Yet he's watching film from Iowa. He's watching film from other games that have elite quarterbacks to kind of dissect and see things. And then he watches the last 3 games of South Carolina to see what kind of offense the new offensive coordinators bring in. So you can look into that and say, well, obviously he's staying. He wants to see those things. Or kind of like he said, he's checking it out to see what kind of offense is it going to be. If I have some protection, can I shine in that style of an offense? Can these weapons that we hear about every year finally be utilized? So, I think every kid who plays quarterback, especially to a level where you're playing D1 football, let alone Power 5, yeah, you have aspirations of being in the NFL. So whether he thinks that window is all but shut, halfway shut, wide open, whatever, you take a stab at it. What do you have to lose? You know what I mean? You got one more year. He's a smart kid. He's got masters. He's got plans for what he's going to do after college and after football. Take a shot at it. You know what I mean? He's getting paid. He's on the NIL deal. So if you get hurt or something happens where you can't play football again, you're in the same boat that you're in if you stop now, because he's not going to the NFL now, right? So, I mean, I think it's a nothing to lose. A lot of optimism around the entire program with Rhule coming in, and for Rhule and a new offensive coordinator coming in, you've got a 25-year-old. You don't have an 18, 19-year-old kid. You got a 25-year-old who's been around, who's played for 2 major programs, who has shown he's super tough, plays through injuries, fights through, like you're saying, not being protected, fighting for his life half the time and running for his life half the time out there, that loves football, you know, engulfs himself in football. And he's what you'd want. He's already a leader on the team. He checks a lot of boxes of what you'd have to go find to fill in as a first-time coach bringing in a new system. So, I mean, I think both sides, it makes sense for him to stick around. The only thing that might change that is if you get, you know, when the portal opens up, there's going to be names all over for all kinds of positions. But there'll probably be some names where people go, oh, that guy's a top guy. You know, we had it last year. He's a top guy. He'd fit great with this system, blah, blah, blah. You know, he has leadership. He has all these things that we're talking about that Casey has. So then things might change in perspective of not only who looks like a good fit, but who people would get excited about or, you know, would get the rumor mill going. So without that, I think it's a no-brainer that Casey should want to come back and Rhule should want it to go with him, bringing in everything, new staff, new system, all those things.
On the topic of other quarterbacks, do you see anyone else on the college horizon that you would like us to take a look at? Anyone that maybe would fit Matt Rhule's offense? Or, I mean, in my opinion, I want Richard Torres to get a shake. He don't got to start, but I want him to at least be the backup or have a good chance to be the backup. I want him in that Purdy role. I personally, this is just me, I wouldn't mind seeing him get a chance to actually play, but he would have to earn it.
I think no matter what, guys are going to have to earn it. You know, I mean, including Casey. If we get a guy or two through the portal like we did last year, Casey's still going to have to keep or win, however you want to look at it, the job over those guys, I think. Torres, with not having film or seeing things on him since he was in high school before he got hurt, it's hard to say. But when you listen to like Whipple before last year started saying that he's got the strongest arm of all of them, we saw what he can do with his legs. He's tall, you know, he's a big kid. So I don't disagree with you, you know, especially if you're going to run a lot of RPO and drop back and throw deep, you know, utilizing the run game to set those things up. He sounds like the perfect type of quarterback for the offense that is speculated that Rhule's going to bring in. There's intangibles that come with the quarterback spot, especially at that level, that it's hard to just go, okay, this dude has a strong arm and he can run. Now go in there and do that, you know? So I don't know that he would have trouble or not. There'd be much of a learning curve for him to get to that role. And we don't know transfer portal wise what's going to be available. At least I don't have a clue. I know McNamara said he's going in the transfer portal. There's a lot of rumors about him going to Iowa or doing whatever else. I mean, if a guy like that were to come, I don't know. I haven't watched him enough, honestly. From what I heard, he was kind of underachieving for what Michigan thought they were getting with him, you know. And then in the Ohio State game, I know the announcers were like, this is what Michigan expected or thought they were getting with him, you know, however long ago. So, and you're going to get that no matter who you get, you know. It's really tough to speculate on, especially before people have declared that they're going into the portal. But based off of what we have, and, you know, I know that there's a recruit who said he's still coming and different things like that. I don't think you're going to get a true freshman starting with a first-year coach and a new system coming in. I just don't think. I think you either go with a guy who's been on the roster or a guy who's played in a Power 5 that transfers in, kind of like Casey did this past season with Whipple bringing the new offense. But to me, man, just right now, knowing what we know now, I think it makes the most sense for Casey to come back, Rhule to start implementing things through him with whatever coordinator. You know, obviously it's going to be Marcus from South Carolina, but to me that just seems like the safest bet, you know, the less risky of the all the options that could be out there.
What do you see happening with Smothers and Purdy? Smothers just seems like that dude who is in it to win it no matter what, never knows when to kind of give up on the quarterback competition. He wants it. He seems like he wants to be in Nebraska. What happens with those two guys, realistically?
Well, Purdy's the better passer. Smothers is the better runner. Smothers seems to be the better game time player, but not so great in practice. I don't know if Rhule's going to be one of those guys that everything's determined through practice. It comes down to certain guys don't practice well, and certain guys practice really well and don't play that well. So you either have to figure out how you're going to manage that, because I understand you start getting into the weeds of what example are you setting when a guy who doesn't practice well is getting starts or is getting minutes. What does that say for the rest of the team that sees these guys busting their ass and practicing really well? But also, if a guy's practicing well and then goes in the game and that doesn't translate, you can't lose games because, well, he had good practice. So, I mean, not being there, I don't know what the difference is, how drastic the difference is, or even what you do with that. I mean, that's going to be a preference by the coaches. But if you're leaning heavy on RPOs, I think Smothers has a real shot, especially if he decides he's going to bust his ass all off season and really work on his accuracy and, reading, being able to go through reads and things like that. He's getting experience. He's getting older too, just like if it's a perk for Casey and other quarterbacks that might come in, you have to count that as a perk for him, but he has to do something with that. He has to continue to try and develop his game, because you're right. He does have that fight in him. He does have that kind of dog in him. He's personality wise on the field, he seems like everything you would want a quarterback to be. And then he definitely has that athleticism. So are you getting away from running? Is the RPO just to set up the actual run game, in the short passing game? Are you actually going to run with the quarterback? If you are, Purdy's probably not above Smothers in that sense. If you are doing more drop back, Purdy probably is above Smothers. So those guys are guys that a lot of it's going to depend on how hard they want to work, because that's obviously a huge thing for Rhule. And then how much better, how much more can you improve in an off season, and how impressive can you look during the camps and the early practices leading up to the season. But I think if Thompson comes back, it's going to be hard for either one of those guys to pass him up.
Hit the like for us. Tell us what you think. Who do you want to be Nebraska's next QB, and who do you think it will be? Until next time, go Big Red.